So when you're planning your new homeschool year, sometimes there is a lot of moving parts, especially with curriculum, because you might not have a curriculum that is going to take all year. Maybe it's just a special unit, or you might not have physical curriculum. Maybe you've downloaded a bunch of stuff through the years and you know you have it, but where is it at? There's just a lot of tasks that you have to do in planning a homeschool year. If you're like me anyway, it's not always just add to cart, pay for it, ships at your door, and then you're ready to go. I wish it was that simple. For me, it's not. So today I'm going to go through with you some of the special preparations that you too might need to consider if you're going to throw in there a Christmas schooling or a special holiday unit, or maybe you just want to throw something different in there in the middle of the year. I have some planning tips for you. My name is Rachel, and I have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and an elementary schooler, 16, 13, and 10 years old. So I'm trying to plan my homeschool year where we can do some things together. Not only that, how am I gonna figure out how to not overload everybody's schedule? If you don't have curriculum that just fits nicely from beginning to end of your school year, there can be some overlapping. So how am I going to plan all these things out? I'm going to show you this today. So first I want to start with, if you've missed my previous videos about how I got here, how I started planning this year, my overall year plan, and the special things that I'm throwing in there to mix it up, especially to involve my high schooler, check out these two videos right here, and I will link them in the description below also. I also have a planning series that I did last year, and in that planning series, I really go step by step in a different way than I have this year. I am a very analytical thinker when it comes to planning, and probably some of that is just I'm born that way, but also I used to be a professional planner in the corporate world. So some of it's probably skills that I learned, and I was a professional planner for 15 years. So I hope that these tips and walking you through the way that I think through a homeschool year is helpful to you. I'm not going to go into detail with how and why I created everything in this spreadsheet. I'm going to show you some new things that I have in this spreadsheet this year that I did not have last year. But how I got to this spreadsheet and what's in it, check out this video right here, and I will share all with you about how to create the spreadsheet. So in the last video, I went over my routine, and one of the things that I want to talk about now is, before I talk to you about the family subjects and my co-op plan and all that and show you that curriculum, I wanted to show you what I set up here. I call this my curriculum graph. And the purpose of this is for me to schedule out my curriculum and what's going to be used at what time. So the black means it's going to be used. But I also thought, in years past, I've tried to keep track of the progress that we're making. So I made a monthly little slot right here where I thought at the end of each month I could say what lesson we're on, and that would give me an idea of pace. So economics for everybody, for example, has 13 lessons. Forensic science has 180 lessons. Now I can just tell you right now, we're not going to do all 180 lessons of the science because my son's going to be involved in other things with our co-op. He's not going to have time to do all of that, but he is going to be doing science. So anyway, this will give me an idea as we pace through here. I printed this from my binder, which when I do my binder video, I'll show you that. But I'll have an idea of just how far we are behind, but I won't have to update it on a weekly basis, which I think will be really nice. Since I mentioned in my last video that I plan on meeting with my son to make sure we're on the same page regarding high school and his deadlines and what's coming up and what he's completed and turning in work for me to grade, I'm probably not going to meet with him for that sort of detail on a weekly basis, but a bi-weekly basis. So one meeting that we'll have will just be discussion, and one meeting I will be specifically making sure I know which lesson he's on so that I can update for August. Where did we end off? For September, what lesson are we on? And I will track the progress in this way. Same thing for any of the family subjects that we're doing. I can track the progress and where we are so that I can adjust my plans. I will explain more about this in a bit, but I have it for read alouds that I left blank spots for me to fill in for read alouds, where I can put in here which chapters we completed so I can have an idea. And also, so I can have a finished product. I mean, I live in a state with very low regulations, but this might be something that you need in order to turn into your state. Or if my state ever changes and I have to produce some of this proof of what we did, then here's another record that I can have. So then I have it for my daughters also, and when we're doing what curriculum. So I listed out here everything from the scope and sequence, that is my son's work for this year. The black means that's what he's doing. So I have quarter 1, quarter 2, Christmas, January, because if you watched my last video, you know in January we're doing something a little bit different, so I wanted to designate this differently here. Then quarter 3, quarter 4, and then end of year, because some of the things we're doing are going to be specific to Christmas, January, or the end of year. So economics for everyone, I predict that will only be a semester-long course. Science will take the entire year. Fix-It Grammar will be the entire year. It's 30 weeks, but that's because it's 30 weeks, it will end sooner than his school year will. He's going to finish the IEW Style and Structure Level C that he did last year, but he started it late because of the Progeny Press literature guides, and so he only got through 6 units. He's going to finish the other 3 units this year. This is a funny thing about Excel. I didn't know how to split my box here, so I kind of drew in a colored box to show I'm not going to have him start it right away. He's going to start it about halfway through the first quarter, but then he'll be done by Christmas time. Another curriculum he's going to use, we're not going to start until Christmas time, till the end of the year. He needs to redo a presentation from last year, and so on and so forth. Things here, like these 2 curriculums, are not going to start until second semester. Teaching the Classics is one that he was going to do with us, so I was able to slot it in here. So this was very helpful for me to slot in here when we were going to be doing things, to make sure, especially for my high schooler, that I was not overloading him with work, because I did overload him slightly first semester of last year. So once I kind of slotted in what I thought we were going to do, then I was kind of counting how many classes, assuming about an hour. I kind of just added up in my head how many per quarter he would be doing, and that's kind of how I decided what his workload was going to be. So I did the same thing for the family subjects. Teaching the Classics is only a couple first semester, which will actually probably get done before then, but I've slotted it in here for the whole time. When we're doing our Essentials class, we won't be doing it during Christmas or January, so I don't have that there. Meteorology will be the whole time. Poetry first semester, Fallacy Detective the second semester, and this will be largely due to if we finish poetry when we start Fallacy Detective too. And then I have the Christmas Carol unit in here as well. I mentioned the read alouds, what I plan to do. Hopefully 1 per quarter will be good, and if we do more than that, that's great. And I have fairy tales, fables, little short stories like that in there. And I mentioned the Phantom Toll Booth lap book that we'll be doing, but it's for the end of year slot, okay? And so on and so forth. But this is called my curriculum graph, and it's where I put in all the things that I thought we were going to do and when we would do them. One of the other tabs that I added this year is right here. It's called Digital Curriculum. So if you followed me on Instagram or heard me mention this in another video, I did kind of give a little sneak peek at this, but I have 2 different printers. I have an HP and I have an Epson EcoTank. Previously, I had printed pretty much everything on the Epson, and then when my Epson kind of screwed up, and Morgan from the Dove's Nest on Instagram was also kind of comparing the Epson EcoTank and the HP, and kind of opened my eyes to, you know what, the HP really is better quality for color. if you're printing things in color and you want the color to be sharp. So I had already had this spreadsheet started because I had so many things that I had downloaded that were digital. So many things. If you guys are like me, I like to buy digital curriculum that I can reuse. So for example, I've bought digital planners before. Well, I mean, there's lots of curriculum, like Campfire is digital. You have to download it, but it comes with so many moving parts. Unless you're going to do it right away, you don't necessarily want to print it right away. I tend to save it and then I want to print it later. Well, I also have two different computers from way long time ago. You know, when I started homeschooling, I might have saved homeschool things on flash drives too. So the question is, what curriculum do I know that I have and where is it located? So I created this spreadsheet where I wrote down curriculum, the number of pages there is to print, which computer is it on, which folder on that computer, which subfolder is it located in, because sometimes even the subfolders can trip me up sometime. And then which printer am I going to print it on? Because if it's got a lot of color, or I want to make sure the color or the images matter, I bought a 500 print HP subscription for 1 month only, so I could do all this printing. I wanted to be efficient and make sure that I knew that I could get all my prints in, and then we're going to lower our subscription down to probably 30 pages a month. We keep our HP in our basement, and it's convenient for my son to be able to print his things there. And then the eco tank is in my kitchen, and then I can make copies, and we print out recipes and, you know, any kind of random thing from the internet that you want to print out but you don't really care about the images, that's going to go to the eco tank. So we probably will use the eco tank for most things, but when printing curriculum, I wanted that HP. So I wanted to keep track of how many prints I was going to need. But I split up curriculum versus the planners and charts and stuff that I created just to kind of keep it a little bit organized. So my planner, my daughter's planner, and then my chore charts, my rewards procedures, and all of that stuff is in this column, because I wanted to prioritize certain things first. So then I wrote down which printer it was. Some of these things I had already printed out, so if I had already printed it out, it's X'd right here. It did not start out like this, you guys. I just moved them under printed once I did print them, so I could keep track of how many prints I had remaining of my HP subscription. So that was just a way for me. If you don't have to keep track of your prints or a subscription or anything, this may not be a big deal, but when you have an HP subscription, if you go over for that month, it does charge you a little bit extra. So if you're going to, say if I was going to print 1,000 pages from the HP print, then I would only want to print 500 this month and then wait for the 500 for next month. I think there is a way on the app where you can see your print totals racking up, but I like my spreadsheet because it also tells me where it's housed anyway, so then I don't have to look at more than one place to figure out where I'm at in the process. So then down here, this is the curriculum that I needed to print, that I was going to print to the Epson Eco Tank. So that's why it's down here. The color did not matter as much. Some of these others were just, they're basic black and white, or they were already printed. I didn't even really need a total there, except for to know how many reams of paper I might need to get started. I did have to buy paper this year. So anyway, that is something different that I did this year. If you have a lot of digital products that you need to keep track of and they're located in various spots, maybe you just need a spreadsheet that says what it is, where it's at, and so on and so forth. And when I was creating this, I kind of just took some time one morning and I searched through every single folder that I had in my homeschool folder and saw if there was even something there that I forgot about that maybe I decided that I wanted to do. I do have other things in this spreadsheet that I did to help me with planning, but I don't really want to get into that detail today. But for example, for my co-op and for my essentials class, I used a tab in this spreadsheet to help me think through which curriculums I was going to use for my co-op day, what lesson we were going to do. So I already have a rough plan for the entire year for every single day. that is not for this video. Once we get into the school year, I will show you how I lesson plan and you'll see that. Check out my series up here on how I plan our year. And if you missed my first video about kind of how I came up with all these ideas, that one's right there. Everything linked down below. Till next time, bye.